Welcome to Brian's Action Figure Reviews, and coming up is another pop culture interview. Today I'm going to interview Alan Alford, who is an action figure customizer and collector. So I'm not going to talk much about it here. I'm just going to let you enjoy the interview straight away. Here we go, folks. Alan Alford. Hello everybody and welcome back. I'm with my guest Alan Alford. Welcome, Alan, to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so what we usually do on the show is we start off by you tell us what you do and how you do it, basically.
What I do and how I do it. Oh God. I suppose the main thing that obviously we're going to be talking about is the customizing of figures. So mainly at the moment it's kind of Star Wars and Marvel Legends that I've been customizing most recently. But I've also done Transformers and various other action figures as well. I'm pretty much open to any kind of action figure customization, to be fair. It just very much depends on what takes my fancy at the time and what figure I feel that my collection is lacking.
So you're actually the first customizer I've had in the show. So
as it should be.
Exactly. So do you want to start by telling us a bit about some of the pieces you're working on at the moment?
It's a bit of a strange situation for me, actually, because I don't actually have any figures that are currently what I would deem as a work in progress.
Okay.
I've recently finished a few Star Wars ones so I've done an incinerator trooper and a shock trooper. The incinerator trooper was quite a funny one that I'd literally started making that, and then Hasbro announced that they were going to release one. So I was like, thanks for that, Hasbro. But the shock trooper is one that they released a while back, but it's a bit of a difficult figure to get, and I'm a bit of a stingy guy that I'm not going to pay over the odds for a figure. So it's like, if I can make my own, why not? So they're the ones that have been sort of the most recently finished. I've also finished recently a custom Hulkbuster from the Marvel Legends BAF, build a figure for people that are not aware. That's for technically it's a customer, but more a friend. That essentially we did a trade, so he sent me some figures as well as the builder figure, and I've pimped it out for him, I suppose is a good way of putting it.
So what got you into doing customization, or how did that come about?
It comes back to when I was actually really young. So I've been into art and I've always liked drawing and painting and all that kind of stuff. But I was kind of at a point in my life where just like drawing on paper and stuff just wasn't really getting the juices flowing, if you like. And randomly I was out shopping with my mum in my local town, or what was my local town at the time, and there was a new shop called the Games Workshop that had just opened.
Yes.
So I happened to walk in there with my mum and see all of these marvelous little miniature figures that obviously had all been painted up really well, and then they always had like the little diorama things, and there were people playing games, and I was just like, oh my god, this is amazing. I really want to find out more about this. So I ended up having like a 20-minute chat with one of the guys that was working there, and whilst my mum was trying to convince me to leave the shop at this point. And he kind of sort of said about the game and everything else. I was like, no, I'm not interested in the game. I'm interested in the miniatures. I want to like get into how do you make these things look like that kind of thing. And he's, oh, okay, well, you can buy like starter kits, or you can buy army kits and all the rest of it. Obviously we sell all the paints, we sell the brushes, etc., etc. So I was just like, badgering my mum at the time to say, oh, well, maybe I could get a starter kit, mum. Maybe I could get. She's like, no, we haven't got any money at the moment. You're not allowed to. You haven't got any pocket money. Although, having said that, I can't remember whether it was Christmas was coming or whether it was my birthday that was nearby. But she mentioned that one of them was coming up. So I was like, you know what? In that case, then, all for my birthday, all I want is money, so that I can come back to this shop and I can buy loads of things to paint. As it was, my mum had obviously gone back another day, whether with my dad or on her own, I don't know. And they basically bought me a starter kit, which came with essentially the basic paints, a couple of brushes, and then it had I think about half a dozen or a dozen figures, but they were, instead of being the metal ones, which were the thing at the time, they were the plastic ones. So there was like some orcs, and then there were a few other random things, and then the ones that really caught my attention were the Space Marines.
Yeah.
So that kind of got me started, and then I got a bit of money for my birthday or Christmas or whatever it was, and I basically went back to the shop and I started stockpiling Marines basically. So I had quite a lot of them, and the ones that kind of really sort of inspired me were I think they were called Blood Angels, and then the Ultramarines. So the Blood Angels were red, and the Ultramarines were kind of a really royal blue.
I remember
And
that actually.
people that obviously know it more better than me will probably tell me that the colouring was wrong, but there we go. And it all kind of stemmed from there. And I remember painting those up, and then there was another set that I really got into, and I had no interest in the game whatsoever. I know nothing about the history of any of
I think it was
the
Space Force. It was called.
yeah, so none of that kind of appealed to me. Or I was bothered by it, but I was in the shop, and I found these really cool looking like armored guys with swords and blasters and all that kind of stuff, and they were called striking scorpions, and they had this kind of green and sort of fluorescent deco, and I was like, you know what, I've got to learn how to paint that. That looks amazing. So I bought a load of those as well, and it kept me going for a while, and then obviously schoolwork and all the rest of it got on top of things, and the painting just sort of dissipated. And then years and years later, as an adult collector, I'd started getting into Transformers, and I was buying like the Michael Bay Transformers. We won't talk about those movies, but the figures themselves were pretty cool. But I always thought the figures looked very plastic. They didn't really look like robots. So I kind of got into an idea of like, well, I wonder if I've still got those paints I used to have. So I kind of went rifling through the loft, and I found the old paint set, and there was a bit of paint left in a few of them. So I kind of found a tutorial on a website called Figuarts.
I've heard of it.
And basically it was I apologize if the man watches, because I don't know if I'm going to pronounce his name right, but it was a guy called Jin Sayatome or Satome.
Prince of
And
Toby.
yeah, and his figures were fantastic. So I was like, you know what? And he adds a few sort of picture style tutorials, because being a bit of an older guy, YouTube didn't exist then. And basically I followed his tutorials, and I think the first one I did was a Bumblebee, and then I put it upon myself to customize an Optimus Prime. Now, obviously, if you remember back to then, the leader class Optimus Prime wasn't a cheap figure.
No.
So he was one that I decided to tackle, and thankfully it came out well. And I learned dry brushing techniques and all that kind of stuff, and it just sort of stemmed from there. And again, after the Transformers and after I got kind of bored of those, I got into props and sort of doing a few of those sort of things. And one of the things I've always been into is Star Wars, and more recently sort of like painting up things like Kylo Ren's, like you get the basic lightsabers, so I started painting that to make it look a bit more realistic. I've got a Star-Lord blaster up there that I painted up, because again, when it came, it was yellow and white or orange and white. So it's just it's one thing. I come back to it time and time again. But it was a fellow member of our admin team of Good Figures that actually pushed me to start doing Legends figures. And he sent me a load of fodder and a load of a massive long list of
Was this Steve?
demands. This was Steve, yeah. Massive long list of demands of figures that he wanted. So I started painting them, and again, a few people noticed, and I got a few jobs out of it here and there. And so I think I'm actually thinking about it. With the exception of yourself, I've done a custom figure for every member of the Good Figures admin.
Well, you know what to do next, then, don't
So
you?
yeah, you know what, you need to challenge me to do a figure for you.
I will. I'll have to think of something though.
But yeah, so I've done loads for Steve. I mean, one of the ones for Steve actually is here, so I'll showcase that one in a little while, because he needed me to do a repair job on it. I did what was her name? One for Rich that was essentially he bought a figure that hadn't been particularly well customized, so he asked me to again repair it. And then for Nate, I did the Russian, which
from Punisher.
I used Nuke as a base and kind of went to town with it. But I'll say one thing. Obviously, the Russian, for anybody who knows the character, wears a white shirt with red lines on it. And white and bright red are two of the worst colours you can ever use when you're customizing.
Yellow as well.
Yeah, so it's all good fun.
Okay, so what was your favorite toy growing up?
My favourite toy.
Or action?
Oh, that's a hard one. I mean, I'll kind of reiterate what our pal Rich said, and sort of Lego is one that I always come back to. I've always had Lego ever since I was a kid. You know, from Lego City to various like the superhero stuff. But again, one of my favourites has always been the Star Wars, and I've had tons of Star Wars Lego over the time. I used to have like the vintage Star Wars characters, He-Man characters. I used to have Thundercats. Mask was one that was always a favourite of mine. I loved that, you know. And then always, and it's always one that I go back to time and time again, is the Transformers. You know, I've had I had G1 Transformers. I've had the various other generations that they've done. I've had a couple of masterpieces, which I do really think are incredible. But I've started getting into a bit of the third-party ones recently. So I recently bought a third-party Bumblebee from the Bumblebee movie.
Fans toys make excellent Transformers as well.
Yeah, and this one's brilliant. I mean, it's not movie accurate to like everything because obviously they started developing them before the movie had actually been released. But it's a really damn good representation of Bumblebee, and he looks great on my shelf, so I'm happy.
So what are you collecting right now at the moment?
My main focus at the minute is Star Wars Black Series. Again, it's one that I've kind of dabbled in the past and sort of went away from for a little while when I went mental with Legends. But realistically, my main focus of my collection now is the Star Wars stuff. I do still have a core of Legends. You know, obviously, I bought the Red Hulk recently, which prompted me to then create the rest of the Thunderbolts. So again, we'll show some of them off in a little while. So I've got like the Punisher, Agent Venom, and Ghost Rider that I've created. Love Thor Ragnarok's one of my favourite Marvel movies, so I've got all of the legends from that, like the main characters of that. And I'm really happy when Hasbro released Korg. But I was devastated at the fact they hadn't announced they were going to release Meek, so naturally I had to make my own. I was really big into the Iron Man stuff with Legends as well, but again, it got frustrating because it was hard to get some of them. Wasn't going to pay over the odds, like I said before. But there's so many armors that obviously Tony Stark has had, and you've seen in the various movies, especially obviously in Iron Man 3, that just never made into figure form. And I was like, well, I could customize most of them because they all seem to be based off of that kind of War Machine like body.
Those awkward ones like Igor then Wonder.
That's what I mean. If you're going to have a Hall of Armor, you've got to have Igor. You know, you've got to have the Heartbreaker armor. You know, one of the ones that was one of my favorites was from the beginning of Iron Man 2 was the Mark V, you know, the suitcase one. And again, but trying to get hold of that. And the problem was, again, with all of the Iron Man 2 figures, when they released those, they were a smaller scale than Legends are now. So, I mean, with a bit of creative positioning, you know, you can make them look the same scale, but realistically, they look a lot smaller. And I got the War Machine Mark II, which Mark 1 even. And I absolutely love the Mark 1. It's a absolutely fantastic armor. It just looks proper badass. You know, it's really big and bulky. You know, the most bulky one they had in the MCU until Endgame and Civil War and the like. But it's when you put it on the shelf with the other War Machines, he's like almost an inch shorter, and it's like, what am I going to do with this? So in the end, I found a tiny little. It's really easy to describe. I found a Tic Tac box, so obviously they're clear, and I stood him on the Tic Tac box so that when he was looking at the shelf, he stood the same height as everyone else. But to be honest, I mean, over the last few months, so that I could focus more on the Star Wars stuff, pretty much all of my Legends have gone, other than a core of figures. So like I say, I've got the Ragnarok team, which are on a shelf up there. And I've got the Thunderbolts that I've made and a few others. And today, delivery of Doctor Doom. Very pleased with that one. That is one hell of a figure. One hell of a figure. And I mean, I've just been staring at him for most of the day, which has been fun. And I've got the Taskmaster as well from the Black Widow movie. And not because I have any interest in the Black Widow movie whatsoever. It's purely because I love Taskmaster.
Yeah, the figure looks class as well.
It does. It's so well detailed. So well detailed. The only gripe is that in the trailer, you see he has kind of like the heads up display on his visor that kind of glows through, and they haven't done that detail. I'd have loved them to do that. So that's one I'm probably going to tackle at some point.
Okay, so your prized possession in your collection that you could never let go.
Him up in the corner there.
The helmet.
Yeah, that Iron Man helmet, probably the shield behind me, to be honest. And upstairs, I also have a Black Series Stormtrooper helmet, and I think that one's going to be cremated when I die. That's going to go with me because they're ones that obviously I could possibly replace. The thing with the Iron Man helmet, it's made from a kit, so it's very unique. It's not like the Black Series ones where they're obviously mass produced, or sorry, the Marvel Legends ones that are mass produced. The shield's a Ruby's one, so it's actually quite a cheap one, but it was one of the first props that I ever bought. So I love that, and I think if I sold that, my wife would kill me. But yeah, I'd probably say the Iron Man helmet, the Stormtrooper helmet, and probably my Mark 1 War Machine Hot Toys.
Nice.
That one cost me a damn fortune, and it's a great representation. Obviously, I know they've released a die-cast version of it a bit later on, but this was the first release when Hot Toys were sort of first starting to make their way over to this country regularly. And I found it from a UK seller on eBay, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to take the punt with it, and I wasn't disappointed. An absolutely stunning figure.
Sometimes you just have to say fuck it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So your dream figure from any line, any franchise ever created that's not made at the moment?
Starkiller. 100% Starkiller, Black Series. Arguably one of my favorite video games of all time. I've always loved the Star Wars games, especially when you're, third person playing as the character. You can see who you're playing. I love the concept of the game because you start off as a Sith or a Sith apprentice. And okay, you do turn to the light, which I was a little bit disappointed about, if I'm honest, because if you look at most of my collection, it's very much on the dark side of things. But yeah, I'd love a genuine figure of Starkiller. I have made my own version from The Force Unleashed 2. But I'd love there's so many options they could do for him. From the first game. He had so many different outfits, but there's the one he starts off in, which is very kind of classic Starkiller, if you like, with the red lightsaber and sort of the ripped up outfit, which just looked really cool. And then right at the end of the game, and I think I can give it away because it's been out for a while. I don't think it's spoilers.
Yeah, of course you can.
When he's wearing his Jedi robes, kind of look, and it's very sleek. Unlike the Jedi from the movies where they kind of look like they're wearing pajamas. It's just kind of a very sleek but functional Jedi outfit, and it's all in kind of white and grey, and it just looks nuts. And I really like that outfit, and it's one that I'm actually planning to customize for myself because at the moment, again, no idea when Hasbro are going to do it or if they're ever going to do it. Although they've kind of teased us recently because they've done the Gaming Greats Shadow Trooper and the Gaming Greats Stormtrooper Commander, who are both from The Force Unleashed. So
hopefully,
I'm hoping that one day they're going to scratch that itch and they will give us Starkiller.
One thing I'll say is there probably is a market for him. So usually where there is a market.
Absolutely. I mean, there's hundreds of people that want him. Thousands of people.
They're not going to leave money on the table. So.
Why would they?
Exactly.
And, if anybody from Disney or ever watched this channel, we want Starkiller back as canon, please.
Yeah. Okay, so we're at the end of the interview. So all that's left is for you to plug yourself and show us anything you've done, etc. Whatever you want to do.
Okay. I don't know if I'm actually able to turn my camera around on this, so I'm going to try. I don't know. I don't actually know if it'll let me.
Well, actually, you can send me pictures afterwards, and I'll add them to the email.
Well, what I will say is on Instagram, I have a page, channel, whatever they call them. I don't know. I don't really know Instagram lingo. Under Storm Spider Customs, combining my two favorite things, Spider-Man and Stormtroopers. And most of my work, if not all of my work, is showcased there. But what I will kind of do is try and swing around. So I don't know how well this is going to come across, but
Looks great.
that's the Hulkbuster that I've recently done.
Nice.
So that one's a full repaint, top to bottom. Everything's been done on that one. Had to take this whole thing apart, which was a pain in my ass, but there we go. So I'll move him out of my way because he is a chunky lad. That one there is Starkiller, although the head is temporary, just so you know. And then you've got the Thunderbolts, so Punisher, Ghost Rider, and Agent Venom at the back there. Hopefully you're seeing this because at the moment all I'm seeing is the back of my phone. There's my Meek.
He's great.
So I'm really proud of him. And then you've got the Incinerator Trooper. Oh, hello. What have I done there?
You just took a snapshot.
Oh, did I? Okay. The Incinerator Trooper with custom flame effect.
That looks class.
And then behind him is the Shock Trooper. And then I'll bring him front and center because I think Steve will appreciate him being showcased. So this is one that the concept Steve came up with, and basically it's a combination of Spider-Man and Iron Fist. I don't know what he's officially called him, whether it's Spider Fist or something else. But basically, so that one is a Spider-Man lower half with a Iron Fist upper half, and obviously, essentially, I've painted all of the torso, painted the Spider logo, and then did the webbing on the head. Obviously, painted the head red. The body was originally cracked open by Steve and put together, and it was repaired by somebody else. But when his son got hold of it, he managed to damage the figure. So Steve sent it to me to repair it. So I've basically done a full torso repaint. And the figure actually had a different logo originally, but Steve said that he wanted one that was kind of reminiscent of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. So I kind of used that to design a new logo for the chest on that one. So I could probably showcase lots of other things that I've been working on and things that I've done. I mean, I've got a loft full of customs. Had I had thought about it previously, I probably could have gone and got my powered up Prime that I made. But I left that one up there. But actually, you know what? We'll do the last one because I did mention it.
Okay.
And I will get Star-Lord's blaster.
Nice.
So again, when this arrived, it was mostly white with orange accents. So again, it's had a full repaint to reminiscent of it, and obviously adding in like the heat scorching and all that kind of stuff. Make it look as real as possible. So there we go. It's kind of a bit of me.
Excellent. So thanks for coming on, man, and having a chat.
Absolute pleasure, mate. Always a pleasure.
Great to have you on. So everybody, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Alan. He is genuinely one of the nicest guys I know in the action figure community, and as you can see by his figures, a fantastic customizer as well. So make sure to check out Good Figures, where you can find myself, Alan, Rich, who was also on the interview, and many others who are like-minded like ourselves. And if you enjoyed the interview, subscribe to myself, drop a comment, drop a like, hit the notification bell, stay subscribed, and we'll see you real soon. Bye!